Crime stalks the lives of all South Africans, but farmers feel particularly vulnerable. 74 were killed last year, according to official statistics, although many think the true picture is worse.
My name is Eileen de Jager. I'm one of the Blood Sisters, known in South Africa. We are a nationwide leader in crime scene cleanup. Well, 18 years ago when we started this business, we would get one call a week to come and assist at either farm attack or farm murder. Now it's daily. It's definitely daily. It's increased unbelievably.
Donald Trump humiliated the South African president, and the media is freaking out.
Mr. Reagan.
All right, before we start, I've got a great new sponsor for the show, Gold Co. If you want to diversify your portfolio, protect your savings, safeguard your retirement, try investing in gold with Gold Co. Go to MrReaganLikesGold.com or call 844-696-GOLD or click on the link in the description below.
Each one of those white things you see is a cross. There's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it.
No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen.
What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation that we've just seen on the screen?
I don't know. These are articles over the last few days. Death, 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 horrible death. And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. Now, we're going to talk about it, but this is a tremendous, look, this is a story recent. These are all people that recently got killed. And I don't know how it can get any worse.
The Trump meeting with the South African president may be the coolest thing that Donald Trump has done in his second term as president. But the way the media has presented it, you'd think that Donald Trump is the bad guy. The X account Western Lensman compiled a number of clips from the news media reporting on this.
The tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Diplomatic ambush.
Ambush. Ambush. Ambush.
Ambush.
Ambush.
Ambush. Ambush. Ambush. Ambush.
Ambush. Ambush. Ambush. Ambush. Ambush. Ambush.
Of course, the left employs their standard coordinated assault on Donald Trump. But this is an unusually absurd one because we're talking about a sickening racist assault on white farmers in South Africa, most of whom are devoutly religious Christian families. I mean, you don't really find a lot of devoutly religious Christians in high concentrations across Western civilization these days. Here we have one, and they are under constant threat of violent attack, and their plight has been entirely ignored by global leaders until now. And so what Trump did in true Trump style was legendary. Trump absolutely humiliated the South African president to his face in the Oval Office. This was in front of news media cameras and broadcast to the entire world. You've probably already seen this in the news, but so did people around the world. And you can believe that all of South Africa saw this moment. The left, of course, is going after Donald Trump hard for this, presenting it as a derailed attack by Trump and framing the South African president as a victim. But here's the thing. South Africa is facing a true humanitarian crisis, and the South African president is doing nothing about it. In fact, the government's land reform policies have often been criticized for exacerbating tensions, as they have been accused of enabling or even encouraging violence against white farmers by failing to address the root cause of the conflict. And the root cause of the conflict is black racism against white South Africans.
White farmers own vast tracts of land in South Africa and receive little sympathy. The ruling ANC is taking drastic action. They've adopted a new policy called land expropriation without compensation. The government says land will be redistributed because the stability of the nation depends on it. But it may be a long and violent journey.
Attention, retirement savers. JP Morgan predicts a 2025 recession as tariffs have rattled the markets. And according to Forbes, 2025 recession risks just increased significantly. And that's the thing about the global economy. Markets are just darn hard to predict. And that's why thousands of hardworking Americans are turning to the award-winning precious metals company, Goldco. And if you are worried about market instability or a potential recession, my partners over at Goldco are offering you a free 2025 gold and silver kit. Plus, you could get an unlimited instant match in bonus silver for qualified accounts. Call 844-696-GOLD or visit MrReaganLikesGold.com. Find out how you can help diversify your savings tax and penalty-free today. That's 844-696-GOLD or visit MrReaganLikesGold.com. Donald Trump has finally brought this crisis the attention it deserves, and he was totally justified in doing so. In fact, I'd say that doing so was heroic. But this whole South African issue, this is not new. For years now, the situation in South Africa has been spiraling out of control. Julius Malema, a black nationalist politician, has openly called for the murder of white South Africans. He does not veil it, he chants it. Kill the Boer, kill the white farmer. This is not coded language. This is a direct incitement of racial violence.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill, Kilama. Shoot to kill, Yamasa. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
The Boer are the ethnic Dutch out there in South Africa, the people who first colonized South Africa, who first developed the land, who first really lived there in any meaningful sense. Kill the Boer emerged during the anti-apartheid movement. And while apartheid is considered to have been a grotesque injustice, this chant is not a chant of liberation. I don't care what they claim. This is a chant of hate, a call for deadly racial violence. The authorities certainly dispute the racial nature of these attacks, but kill the Boer, kill the white farmer. These are explicit calls to black South Africans to murder white South Africans. The argument is that the chant is an apartheid chant, even though apartheid ended over 30 years ago in 1994. And they say it's political expression, a call for land reform. And okay, sure, I don't know why you can't just say, I don't like apartheid, or I'm for land reform. I mean, I'm not sure how kill the white farmer expresses these ideas better. It does not matter if it's an apartheid era song or that some people don't interpret it literally. Many people will interpret it literally. Not only is this language explicit, and not only is there an obvious common sense risk that some will interpret it literally, and not only does Malema 100% know this, but there actually is an epidemic of murders and violent attacks on white farmers in South Africa. In 2018, Lauren Southern did what no one in mainstream journalism would dare to do. She produced a feature-length documentary about the horrors in South Africa. Her documentary was called Farmlands. It's not politicized coverage, it is the raw truth. She interviews farmers who have survived these attacks, men and women who've been shot, stabbed, left for dead, and who still get up in the morning and work the land. She speaks with black and white South Africans alike, and she also speaks with the police and government officials. And what she uncovered was terrifying: an undeclared war on a racial minority, ignored by the global press because the victims are white. If you haven't seen it, you must. It is called Farmlands. It was released in 2018. It's available for free on YouTube. And it is still, to this day, the most comprehensive, courageous journalistic investigation on this issue.
In Johannesburg, just outside Johannesburg, we had a farm murder, and they drowned the 12-year-old boy in boiling hot water. So we had to remove the skin from the bath as it was peeling off him in the hot water. That was a terrible scene. If you look at the worst movies ever made, it's not really a patch against what is really going on there. It's unbelievable.
All the time my dad's being shot. Back, arms, legs, and my dad slumped forward over this chair, and he was shot in the back of the head here. Just execution style. I know, for what, he was a good man, he was an awesome man, and to shoot somebody 6 times, execution style.
I went outside and I saw the blood. Only then did I realise my husband had been shot. The marks are still on the wall. I just never feel safe in my own home.
Strangle her with a belt around her neck, and they take out her eyes with a fork. It was very cruel, very, very cruel.
Do you think the government turns a blind eye to the murders of white farmers?
Yeah, I personally think so.
Racial discrimination against who, if you don't mind me asking?
I have to be careful.
Careful?
Yeah.
Because
I have to be a little bit careful.
We work very closely with government.
Yeah.
And, I spoke to Simon about it outside. Racial discrimination against people. People. I know what you have to say, and
no, it's okay.
We have to be so careful.
Yeah, I have to think.
We love everybody to hear what we have to say. We want to say so much more, but we have to exercise so much restraint.
Anonymously,
stay behind and work.
I will tell you a lot of stuff.
Katie Hopkins also produced an equally compelling documentary with Rebel News in the same year, 2018. This one was called Plaasmoord, The Killing Fields.
Being a farmer in South Africa is extremely dangerous. More dangerous than being a South African police officer. The stories behind these statistics are horrifying. Regular people like my mum or dad, calmly recounting their gruesome ordeals at the hands of black gangs, a man and his wife branded with hot irons and left to die, a husband killed in front of his wife and children, fingernails pulled, kneecaps drilled, an elderly woman raped, another with half her face blown off from a shotgun. Countless stories of rape, torture and murder. These attacks seem to share a common thread: revenge.
Now, if you're not already convinced that these atrocities are horrific enough, or maybe you bought into the leftist narrative that these attacks are rare and just being sensationalized, have a look at this report from Sky News from 6 years ago.
If you want to cultivate the land in South Africa, say these farmers, this is the sort of training you need. A 2-week tactical survival course run by a former member of the Israeli Special Forces. Idan Abolnik is teaching this group how to ward off or neutralize the enemy, a self-described practical guide to staying alive.
They're here because they want to make a difference. They want to defend their life, to feel more secure for the family and for them.
And his pupils claim plenty of real-world experience.
I've been attacked myself, and these attackers were trained very well. So and I got shot in my face, and you can see the marks over there. And I got stabbed 9 times by a knife, but I survived it.
It's personal accounts like these that fuel the sense of fear.
Fight!
And people like Marley Swanepoel think they're being targeted because they're white.
Good.
It's pretty intense, isn't it?
This is not intense. What's happening in our country?
Everyone hear me, come here.
And I get very emotional about it.
What is happening in South Africa?
Our people are getting murdered, tortured. Our old people who can't defend themselves are being burned with cooking oil. the numbers just rising throughout the day. It's rising, but I mean, you are always worried that you will be the next.
Leftists in the United States and South Africa claim that these attacks are not at all racially motivated. They claim that the chants of kill the white farmer and kill the Boer, that these are just political songs. They claim that Julius Malema and the 2 million supporters of his Economic Freedom Fighters political party, they don't really want anybody to kill anyone. And they claim that, sure, there are brutally violent murders of white farmers, but this is very rare. And even when they do happen, these murders, they're not racially motivated. These vicious black killers, they're just impoverished burglars. And the killings? Well, that's just collateral damage. There's nothing racially motivated about it. And the political chants and the violent murders, they have nothing to do with each other.
Farm murders are intentional. It's not robberies. It's intention. The intention of the attackers is, according to us and what we've seen, is to kill. It's been classified, especially on the crime stats as well, that it's attacks or robberies, burglaries. But because there is no statistic for farm murders currently in South Africa, the brutality of the farm murders in South Africa is undescribable.
At AfriForum, they're asking the same questions. How can the police file these murders as theft or aggravated theft when so often nothing is stolen?
What they tried to do was to reduce the motive for every incident to a single motive. So let me give you an example. The murder of the Potgieter family near Lindley. So what happened briefly was the family, it was Atti and Vilna, the husband and wife, and they had a 2-year-old girl, Wilhelmine. And they stopped at the farm, and as Atti got out of the vehicle, he was attacked. And eventually, Atti was killed. But he was stabbed 151 times with a garden fork and a knife and a machete, or we call it a panga in South Africa, in front of his wife and little daughter. Then his little girl was killed. They took 3,000 rand and they wrote on a placard, they wrote a sign that said, "We murdered them and we are coming back." They were caught and they were trialed, and during the proceedings they said, "We went there because we wanted to take their money." So then it's accepted, okay, so their intention was to steal. But the level of violence that was committed in comparison to what was stolen, there's no possible way to explain that.
So what this kind of boils down to at this point is Donald Trump's use of the word genocide. The mainstream media are basically going around saying it's not a genocide. This is hyperbole. This is an exaggeration. There's a crime problem, okay, but there's not a racial crime problem. There's not an epidemic of racially motivated violent attacks or murders. And so the primary argument that they use against the use of the word genocide is that they say none of this is racially motivated, right? That's their primary argument. But you know what? These murders are so heinously violent that there can't really be any other explanation here other than hate as a motivation. Nobody boils someone alive in order to steal their stuff. If a murder just happens by chance, right, an unintended consequence of a robbery, that murder is usually just like a gunshot and the criminal flees quickly. But a lot of them are much more brutal. And such brutality clearly indicates a motive of hate. And that trend cannot be rationally disconnected from this political rhetoric. More directly, police reports have detailed cases where attackers tortured farmers for hours, leaving behind racial slurs carved into the victims' bodies or written on the walls. This is not petty theft. Even if the number of racist black murderers in South Africa right now currently cannot effectively accomplish the desired task, this is still very clearly an attempted racial genocide. Another claim by leftists who dismiss the racist nature of these murders is that black farm workers are often murdered in these raids as well. But that's not a reasonable argument. Sure, the farmhands are black, but the vast majority are white. Furthermore, racists tend to target those who side with the hated race with as much viciousness or even with more viciousness than they do members of the hated race themselves. This is a very well-known phenomenon. To this very day, in America, the African slaves who liked their slave masters or defended them are now referred to as Uncle Tom. And this term is also now used by black racists today as a pejorative against black Americans who are perceived to have adopted white culture or defend white people, or even who just vote Republican. Those who dismiss the word genocide dismiss the intention of any of these murderers and violent criminals. The claim that these are merely burglaries gone wrong is a disturbing display of willful ignorance. What's happening in South Africa may not technically be classified as a genocide, but that's only because the murderers don't have the numbers to affect their goal. And so maybe the word genocide overstates the case, but to call it an attempted genocide does not overstate the case. And perhaps this attempted genocide is being conducted by a limited minority. But as this minority of murderers is not being dealt with in a serious way in South Africa, it is indeed a humanitarian crisis. No one should die at the hands of a racist murderer in such a violent and brutal fashion. And the brutality sends a clear message. The message is that this can happen to other white farmers if they stay in South Africa and continue to farm the land there. This makes these murders acts of terrorism, but they are not treated as acts of terrorism. They are treated as burglaries gone wrong. Look, let me put it this way. If a genocidal movement of murderers does not have the numbers to affect that genocide, well, that doesn't mean that genocide is not the intent. These terrorists may not have the numbers to cause a mass exodus of white farmers, but that does not mean political terrorism is not the intended effect. These killers are genocidal terrorists. This is a very serious thing that is not being taken seriously. Donald Trump is the only major world leader who has taken it seriously, and now the left is attacking him for it. I guess humanitarian crises don't count if they're perpetrated against white people. And now here's a point that I don't think even the most radical leftist could refute. If any white politician in the United States or South Africa or anywhere in the world chanted, "Kill the blacks," they would not only be roundly condemned, in many places, they would be imprisoned. It would be an international scandal that would rival the fentanyl overdose death of George Floyd. Antifa and Black Lives Matter would once again take to the streets and riot and loot and burn down businesses. But when a black South African politician does it, oh no, he didn't really mean what he said. He was saying kill the white people as a metaphor for a sophisticated political philosophy rooted in historic injustices and contemporary land distribution conversations. Now, he's saying kill white people, and he means exactly what he says. And the people who follow him, they listen to him. It's so weird how so many of my videos are just breaking down in great detail stuff that for the vast majority of my viewers is like basic common sense stuff. But the reason I have to break it down like this is, we kind of lack the rhetoric to talk about this stuff sometimes, because for a person with common sense, probably somebody like yourself, if you're watching this, it doesn't even occur to you that such a thing is needed to be discussed. It's obvious. So why would we waste our brain energy on breaking it down when it's already so self-evidently clear? It's incomprehensible to us that somebody would not understand this. So we don't tend to think too much about it. We don't break it down in our heads. We don't develop the rhetoric to discuss it properly. But to a leftist, this stuff isn't obvious. And so they actually need somebody to explain it to them. And even then, they're unlikely to believe it. But I think that all of us conservatives tend to feel a sense of responsibility to at least try to explain it to them. And I guess that's why these videos are needed. Somebody has to go through the work of breaking this stuff down and developing the language needed to explain these things to leftists. And I guess that's why I have a job. Hopefully you guys get something out of this and you can use some of this in your next conversations about the South African issue. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And remember, it is not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just that they know so much. That is not so. Good night.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.